Hello and welcome to another edition of the Quanser Café. My name is Paul Gilbert and I'm the CEO of Quanser, and we provide teaching and research solutions for the academic community all over the world. And it's my distinct pleasure to be able to have conversations with academic leadership from all over the world. And today is no exception. I'm today joined by, I would say, a very good friend of mine, Dr. Natacha DePaola from the Illinois Institute of Technology in the United States, and we've known each other for quite some time. And before I start, I just want to say one thing, Natacha. I think you are just a wonderful human being. So let's get that out of the way before we start the conversation about the engineering education. Natacha she received her PhD in medical engineering, medical physics from the Division of Health Science and Technology at Harvard Medical School and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1991. She completed her postdoctoral work at Columbia University in the Artificial Organs Research Lab in 1992. In 1994, she went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, where she served as the chair of the Biomedical Engineering Department from 2004 to 2009. And her research investigates the role of physical mechanisms on cellular behavior, emphasizing its importance to the understanding of human disease, the development of new therapies, and the engineering of functional tissues, which I think in today's climate is something that a lot of people would be very interested in. And I know for a fact that, Natacha, you've been dean for over 11 years, I think, and you just stepped down as the dean, and you're passionate to get back into your research in biomedical engineering. Natacha is a fellow of the American Institute for Medical and Biological Engineering and a member of the Biomedical Engineering Society, the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, and the American Society for Engineering Education. She was named one of Chicago's Women of Achievement in 2009 and received the 2012 IEEE Women in Engineering Award. She also served as the chair of the Global Engineering Deans Council, I think from 2017 to 2019. And like I said earlier on, I've known you for a long time, and I know you're passionate about engineering education, women in engineering, and the broader kind of need for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm so happy to have you join. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for such a nice introduction. And it is my great pleasure to be able to be here today, chatting about topics that are of a great importance to both of us, and that we have been talking about for a long time. So I think that's this is a great opportunity to retake in many of those conversations that we have after conference meetings late into the evening. So this is really a great opportunity.
I was just saying to my colleagues that these conversations they're so much like, unfortunately we are at a distance, but they are like sitting there having a coffee or having a glass of wine before a meal. And we've been fortunate enough to meet in many different places around the world, pretty much every continent, I think, over the last number of years. But before I get started, I mean, one of the things which is always interesting to me is how people got started in engineering in the first place. I mean, you're a very accomplished professional now, but what inspired you in the first place to get involved in engineering?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it starts very, very early. When I was a kid, I always was intrigued by everything that was science related. I actually, but in engineering as something in which apply science, and I think I was drawn by the interest in building gadgets, coming up with solutions. I will go around the house as a little kid, building things, which I, not everybody was happy about it, but I was just, but I enjoyed tremendously doing that. I was, so that was some kind of a, curiosity that I have, and that I have the opportunity to play with that. Big inspiration, I would say, was my mother. My mother, who she passed a few years ago. She was a professor of physics and mathematics. And my mother was a great inspiration, someone that, always, showed me how to think about science. When I was a kid, I used to, I'm one of 3 children, but I remember I was the only one that will just tag along with my mother to when she when she had to do some work, even sometimes in the evening, and I would just pack a little snack and go and spend some time with my mother in the lab, and
Nice.
just play around. And I think she was such a wonderful person, that actually very dedicated to education. So I think I think my mother was a big inspiration for me, and somebody who support all the things that I always wanted to do. So I'm being involved in education in a very, very early age.
So I'm always interested because we've been involved in discussions about women in engineering, and there's always the challenges around the concerns young women have, young ladies have about going into a scientific or an engineering profession. Sounds to me like you got a lot of encouragement along the way. Is that something different in Latin America than maybe in other parts?
I would say in general, even with uh, I never sensed that growing up in Latin America that there was restriction for women. And
Okay.
actually, you find in Latin American women occupying all sorts of positions of leadership in many areas. That I think I saw that as a natural thing happening as I was growing up. So I think for me, it was when I came to the States to study that I started realizing that uh, you know, it seems like it's different, right?
Yeah, well, that will
Uh,
probably explain just how why you find it so important to participate in mentor. And then so you went on to university and you kind of shifted to biomedical engineering. What was the kind of thrust that kind of pushed you in that direction?
I just got so fascinated by the whole concept that you could do all the things that you learn in mechanical engineering, that you can apply this to the human body, that you
Wow.
could actually just contribute to the overall field of of medicine in general. So I think I was completely taken, and I said, this is what I want to do. And so then I just set up in this path to decide, well, how am I going to do this? And I actually came across with the program, this program that is a combined MIT and Harvard, is specific to medical engineering, medical physics. It's a program
Hmm.
in health science and technology. That I read that and I was just fascinated about it. And I say, this is where I want to go. And
So you chose kind of a relatively easy school to get into after the
I
MIT.
just kind of was like, wow, when I read, what the training is, even what you have to do when you're there and what can you do after, I say, oh, this is really, really what I want to do. And I set
Wow.
up my mind, this is what I want to do. So then I apply. And you see, back then, I don't know how much some of that has changed, but back then was and you're gonna understand this a little in how does it link in women in engineering and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that. So back then, this program it was a doctoral program. Um, uh, as I told you, I was fascinated by it, and they will accept all the students that were accepted. They have a scholarship, and they will accept only 10 students a year worldwide.
wow.
So I apply, and I'm like, I'll never get in, you know. So I'll never get in. So I mean, there's so many people, and so many, smart people, great people, many already here at MIT and all of that. So I'm like, I never get in. And but I apply and I went through, the interviews and all that. I was at that time already working in one of the hospitals in a very interesting project. And before I get admitted. So I'm like, wow, I'm like kind of half super scared, half like, I have, okay, now I'm in this thing and I just gotta kind of, nothing is the work ahead of me. And but the reason I mention this is that one of the things as we get to discuss,
Yeah,
women in engineering and all that, is that there's been a lot of progress in how we have made uh, things better for women in engineering, not only to study but also working in industry or any other
right.
sector. But I think there is still the thing that we are always put in the position that we need to prove ourselves. We are always put in a position that you want to do something and you have to do either more work or you gotta explain it more. because
Right.
it's not compared to, I would say, men will do. And then that actually puts you in the position that you second guess yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that becomes, it's tiring, right? That you have to be proving yourself. So it takes a lot of, I think, mentoring, having experiences that you begin to have that self-confidence. And you know me, you know that
Yeah, I know
I'm
you
so
don't.
confident.
No,
But
but it's very interesting. I mean, there's a parallel there with my daughter. I told you that she wanted to go to one university, and it was a special university, and she got rejected the first time around because I think because she was applying from an unknown school here in Canada to the UK, and um, she didn't get in the first time. But all of my wife's friends, my wife and myself, a lot of women role models said, apply again. Because you know what? Guys just down the torpedoes, they'll keep doing it. Whereas a lot of women will say, oh, maybe I'm just not good enough and I won't try. I won't persevere. So, this is really inspirational for those people as well. And I always, first of all, I just want to say, I just love the passion with which you talk about the memories. Clearly, they're still vivid about how you got there and how surprised you were that you finally got in, which is no surprise to me, by the way. Um, and but your driving force was the impact that you wanted to have. I mean, sure, you worked in the railroad sector, and that's interesting, but you wanted to make a difference. And I hear this a lot about the percentage of women engineers that come into the field, they want to make a difference. And when you talk about kind of socially relevant projects that they work on, it's a larger proportion of the female student population that gets involved, even though there's only maybe 20% of the undergraduate population is female. So that kind of leads me into kind of talk about where you have been for the last 10, 12 years at IIT in Chicago. And you talked to me a lot about the goal to develop programs for impact. So maybe you could describe some of those or some of the work that you've been doing there to make that happen.
I think one of the things that drove me tremendously to Illinois Tech is that it's a small private institution in the city of Chicago, which has an incredible potential on everything that they were doing. They have excellent faculty, so this is a research institution. They,
Okay.
do research and all. But I think that opportunity to work developing programs that can advance education and have impact on the students and on the city, it really got me fascinated. And I think part of that is, but in order, and I learned that when I was department head, I mean, in order to be able to create programs and make change, you have to be in positions in which you can do that. We
Right.
do a lot as faculty, but if you really want to implement a new program, and it's much easier. So it give you that ability. So I said, as a dean, I will be able to probably, implement programs that could have impact. And I think that to me was a big draw to come and take the position of dean. And I needed to slow down my research significantly, my fundamental,
Right.
but it's okay because I was just doing something, as you said, that I was motivated. I saw the impact, and I enjoyed tremendously
Well,
working with the
you
students.
told me something about the institution which I didn't realize, and that's its founding principles were based on that.
Yes.
Maybe that's an interesting story in itself.
Yeah, the core of Illinois Tech, I mean, Illinois Tech was founded with a $1 million gift that it was given based on the thought of creating a university that will provide affordable education to the children of the workers of South Chicago.
Wow.
And the university is I think it's 185 years old. I mean, I may be wrong, plus minus, but this was
Yeah.
happening,
Wow.
when at the beginning of there was a lot of industry development in the area. South Chicago was an area that was very industrialized.
Hmm.
One of the biggest focus was in meat packing, and there was a lot of industry and technology around that back then. So I think
Hmm.
that's how the university was created, and the university have kept that promise and that in their core of what they do, which is very inspirational as well. So the university.
So you have a really tight connection with the commerce and the industry in South Chicago, and probably expanded to other parts of Chicago as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, and mainly the university keeps this, that the importance of provide affordable education, the importance to bring people of lower means to through education to elevate
Right.
their standing, and I think that is important. And the university have a number of scholarship programs, and and I think that's very inspirational.
Yeah. So I mean, you were dean for 11 years,
11,
and
yeah, a little bit
yeah,
more.
and I know there's so many things that you told me about that you've worked on over the years. But what are maybe one or two of the things that you're the most proud of that you've been able to implement and see through that are still thriving today?
Yeah, yeah. So I implemented a program that I call the IIT Engineering Themes, and the idea was to create an umbrella program that will be all mainly focused in enrichment. So the
Okay.
engineering curriculum is very packed as it is.
Sure.
The question is how we can enrich in order to bring additional opportunities that can actually help the students to get better prepared for the workplace. So my goal was I want my students, coming from our program, to get the best jobs out there. And
Yep.
we have excellent professors and a curriculum, and all our programs are able accredited, and it's all great. But I think you have to always looking into what will be that extra edge. So I created this program that have multiple things underneath. That was an umbrella program, and one of the things that it has that I think have resulted with a great impact on the students' education and opportunities after is I created an undergraduate research program
Okay.
that I would say all institutions probably have undergraduate research programs, because we all have by now recognized the value of doing research
Right.
for an undergraduate student. But I think there were a couple of things that I did different. One was to make sure that uh, the students could have this opportunity from day one. They didn't have to wait until they know they have taken all the important classes, and that sometimes in order to go and work in a research lab, there is the thing about that the leading professor would like somebody who can actually know how to do something,
Right.
and we all know because we all have students in our labs. So I think I set it up so that the students could start at any level. That was one item. The second item will be that it will have a process of matching properly the student interest and ability with the faculty project and needs. And that took a lot of work to set it up, but I think it's very successful, and I did that because I didn't want any faculty to come back and tell me, well, you gave me a bad student. So it's like, no.
So in the process, so this is interesting. So the
Yeah,
students go in, and I know from my own experience and from experience of other people that 18-year-olds coming into university don't really know a lot about engineering, but they have ideas of what they want to do.
right.
And so how do you do with faculty? Because obviously a lot of students didn't know much. So how did they get them to kind of be effective?
Well, yeah, we did a couple things, and that was the third thing that I did is I created an incentive that actually help on the following way. Um, First, we have many students that they have either low income, or so some of the students need to be, working sometimes during the school year, certainly
Hmm.
during the summer. So I set up the program so that the students will receive a stipend, so that the student, instead of particularly the student who needed to do some work, they don't have to work. You can just do something that it's not work, but it's actually contributing to education, and give you some funds. By doing that, what happened, and we set up in the program a set of rules into how the students need to advance. There is a mentoring program associated with that. The
Hmm.
students need to report, and for the faculty, the incentive was that they get a student that they don't have to pay for. They will come to
Right.
the lab. The student is kept to the standards that we set up in the program, that they got to do all these things, including at the end, they need to give a presentation an expo, and they have to submit a paper or a report to the university student research journal. So we set up all the things as requirements. The students were receiving some stipend, and we then supplemented that from the program in general, that all students that they were participating, that they were matched to specific projects in laboratories, and that took, all the matching thing. The students will be participating in other activities that were part of the program. Like, we introduce the students to the art of doing research in general. We have a series of seminars and lectures in which some were to, for example, to tell the student, how do you record data? How do you keep track of the thing? So we did that with a core team of faculty that I work very closely. We developed the thing. So we were having the students, in the lunch hour to participate in all these complementary things that they were making them better prepared to then be in the laboratories. Because otherwise, people. So we were doing this supplementing from the side, because the research cannot be done unless you are in the laboratory with the faculty. But the faculty will just not take anyone. So,
but I like this, because you're talking about providing some real skills that they can take into the lab with them. We've talked to a lot of professors in our world that their challenge with students come out of undergraduate and go into research labs. They do the master's program, they want to go into doctoral program, but they don't have the basic skills of lab work or interacting with hardware. But you're bringing that into the program really early on. I'm also interested in how did you find them working with authentic projects, your research projects, which are meaningful to them. How did that impact their academic work? The studying of the principles and the concepts. Did you notice a difference there?
What is the impact? I think the students, the student who participated in this initiative, they all did very well. We actually, one of the things that we created as part of this program is we created a portfolio system in which the student, which is part of the umbrella program, in which the students will log in all the activities that they were doing. We will create activities. These are all enrichment activities, and it could be a seminar, or it could be a field trip to an interesting corporation or what have you, in the different topical areas that we were focusing. And the students, so we will create this from the college. When the students participate, they log in that they have participated. We created the backing of what the activity was. The students could put their experience, report their experience in there. And then what happened is we were giving them points to the students. We have a point system. It's not a credit system, because this is all enrichment. But this actually not only created a motivation, it allowed us to track what was happening. So then what happened at the end of the year, and this is a program that ran for 10 years.
Right.
At the end of the year, at graduation time, we will recognize the students based on the different activities that they accumulated, that they have participated. And different activities will have a different level of points, as you know. If you commit to do research for a whole semester, that's much more value than participating in a couple of seminars. But what this allows us to do is to recognize the student, motivate them, and then that way we actually did the assessment. Those students who ended up, that participated and were recognized, were actually the students who were performing academically the best.
Really?
So
that's a great correlation. Right?
So to me, we were not kind of checking daily their academics. We were actually looking at the overall, and those students were doing academically where they were top in the class, and they were actually participating in all that. So we recognized them at the end by just, we among them, we sorted out who will get the gold medal or the, So we do those kind of things to motivate them. And so that's one way that we think that their academics, impacted their academic, that constant motivation and engagement and working with other people, because that drove them in activities that they were just opening doors for them daily. But also through this general, engineering things program, and particularly through the research, many students discover what they really wanted to do.
Well, I mean, I talk about this all the time. When I interview engineers for my company, you can always tell the ones that have had project work where they've worked with other people, they can communicate, they can share their ideas. It's not sufficient to just be able to derive equations or understand concepts. You've got to understand how to apply them. And in today's world, we're living in a very connected, systems-oriented world. So we have to understand how to work with other people, different cultures, and so on. But that's a program which is very hands-on. And
Yes.
then in the last 12 months, obviously, we've had a very challenging year with the pandemic. How did that affect your institution?
Well, I think we were affected like everybody else. I mean, the first, we didn't think that it was really happening. Then all of a sudden, we find ourselves like, pack your things because we may not come back
Right.
for a while. And then right there came the big charge. We got to convert everything we do to be delivered remotely. The university was fully committed that the students will complete their academic year.
Right.
The students that were scheduled to graduate will graduate. So I think the university had that commitment. And, for me, it was like, those were supposed to be the last couple months in my internship. I was like supposed to be winding down,
This is supposed to be easy street, right? I'm not going
Right.
to work this hard.
This is supposed to be like, we're talking about March when this is happening. I'm supposed to be kind of ending my internship in May, and so I'm supposed to kind of just be planning my transition and all that. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa. So we needed to, and I needed to lead that in the College of Engineering. I have a phenomenal team of department chairs and all that, but we actually converted everything, and we were able to complete the academic year with all the students doing what they needed to do remotely.
You rally the troops, and so I'm not surprised that you have a phenomenal team of people working with you at the institution, because it's the nature of the beast. But what do you think?
But something I wanted to add here is that then the summer was a challenge in the following way. Particularly, you asked me about the hands-on activities with the research. Right. Where the summer comes, when we normally have tons of students on campus doing research and doing summer programs, which is something that we also emphasize is a great opportunity for the students to advance. For us, in addition, as a private tuition-dependent institution, it's very important that we run summer programs, for financially. Right. So that was another thing that we needed to focus on. And then we again reach out to the faculty and talk about what are the remote components of the research projects that we can actually put forward so that we don't lose a summer on research. And I'm telling you, we have a very significant research program going on remotely in the summer.
Wow. How did you manage the remote lab situation? Because I can see in certain fields you can do the research at home and you can collaborate, by email and text and so on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to physical research, how did you manage those kinds of things?
There was a number of lectures that were developed to introduce the lab periods and concept to be guided. And then some of the labs, physical labs, were open. They were open, but they were always, in some cases, they will only have the students and they will have rolling sessions. So because there will only be like 4 students in the lab. And the students will come with all protected gear. They will be screened that the instructor is communicating with them, but the instructor, they needed to do this multiple times to accommodate the students. So we did that. Now, these 2 things that we did, we were able to deliver what we needed to deliver, but that is not optimal. I think what we need to be looking is at the future of changing, and I think we learned a lot of lessons through the pandemic, is to implement this in a way that we can actually do using the technology, using concepts of virtual twins and all that. Right. We can have laboratories that are running without people, and people are running the labs and actually manipulating the instruments and doing measurements remotely. And we know that the technology exists.
Yes.
We have not done that yet. We have some faculty who are exploring that at this point, but I'm not the dean anymore. So
Yeah, but I know you. I know you'll be looking over your shoulder. And you said that the incoming dean, you like him. You say he's a nice guy. He had
oh,
to
he's a
kind
great
of
guy. He's a great
yeah,
guy.
he had to kind of figure out how to do things remotely to come from another city, and while you were taking care. But I mean, we've talked so many times over the years about new approaches to education, the flipped classroom approach, and students doing work from home and having more mentorship from faculty as opposed to one-way lectures. Do you
Yeah.
think in a strange way the pandemic has helped accelerate that to some degree?
Absolutely, because right now that is happening in almost every single course. Because we have some courses that are being taught on campus. We have flexibility because of where we are located and the fact that we have actually been the measurements that were taken on campus have been terrific. We have had almost no cases in all this period,
Fantastic.
so
That's so
it's been
good.
great. So and there has been some choice. So some choice. Some professors are teaching on campus with all the requirements. Some are teaching online. We have a number of hybrids, and
Hmm.
I think all what you just described is happening. So now the professors need to be flipping the classroom. The professors need to be, being more connected. The students also have the opportunity to do things online, sometimes
Hmm.
on their own schedule, and delivering for
Right.
conversations. I think the part that I know that there is ongoing work that I think is really the remote lab component. I think the remote lab component it requires an additional level of sophistication,
Yes.
and this is
Yes.
where I really hope that the college will move into implementing that. One of the things that I'm doing now, you haven't asked, but I'm going to tell you, is that as I was transitioning in all this, and I was very interested in the application exactly of the kind of things we're talking about for education and research to have more technology. That this is the world that we live today. So I created a center that was launched unofficially last July, officially sometime in the fall, which is called the Illinois Tech uh, Digital Digital Medical Engineering and Technology Center, which is a center for research and education. And what we are doing, I'll send you the website. You will see some of the Quanser instruments in there.
And we'll make sure to put a link on that when we share this
Yeah, yeah.
conversation.
So what we did there was like, okay, I wanted to introduce digital tools in the curriculum. I'm doing it now, focus in biomedical engineering because that's my department, that's my home, that's where I'm now working full time. And as so we are developing educational material in modular forms which are
Okay.
completely done with digital tools that are to be inserted in different courses to get the students to be more proficient on this so the students get more comfortable. And this is something that I wanted to do anyways. I was planning to do this and I was already doing it
Yeah.
independent of the pandemic. But now with the pandemic becomes this is great because these are things that are specifically designed to be done remotely, meaning you just need to be connected. The whole solvers are on the cloud, and the idea is to do modeling simulation on
Hmm.
things that now you're doing all this in the computer. So I think that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. That's one of the things that I'm doing these days. So you gotta.
That's fantastic, Natasha. It's honestly, you're an inspiration. Like I said, in this process, I've learned a whole lot more about you. But I knew a fair bit beforehand, and I think for young women, for young engineers, for making it accessible, and the impact that you're achieving by making sure the students go through the program are doing more than just their academic studies. They're actually rounding out the experience to make them much better prepared, and not only prepared, have a sense of what they want to do with their lives, what they want to do with their careers, and making it available now to students who maybe couldn't afford it, or and making them feel welcome in your program. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Natasha, for taking part in this, and I wish you all the best in your transition. Hopefully, you can be proud of what you've achieved as a dean and move on to some amazing research work that I know that you'll do in the next few years. So thanks very much.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about this, which is something very close to my heart. And I think it's great that you doing this series to kind of share with everyone conversations that we all been having.
Well, that's right. I find it's kind of interesting because we meet at these conferences, 200, 300 people, and have great presentations. But hopefully, this can expand these thoughts, these ideas, and something you've said, or many things you've said actually, will resonate with people in various parts of the world, and hopefully inspire them to do something special. So, thanks very much. And by the way, it doesn't take a lot to encourage me to come to Chicago. So when this is all over, I look forward to coming and seeing you.
Absolutely. I was about to say, I look forward the time that even though we can do all this remotely, we gotta get back together face to face. Yes.
Absolutely. You take care. Thanks very
You
much,
too.
Natacha.
Thank
All
you
the
so
best.
much. Thank you so much.
Okay.